Okay, this is going to be section 3 of chapter 3, Ethics and Communication. Section 3 is a little bit larger than the other two parts, but this looks at plagiarism. And first, we want to start off by defining that. This is the act of using another person's words or ideas without giving credit to that person. That's an older Merriam-Webster definition, but still true today. Some examples for you: turning in someone else's work. In high school, that's straight up cheating. In college, that's straight up cheating as well. Copying words or ideas without giving credit. Okay, not using quotation marks or a direct quote. That makes it sound like something you are passing off as a paraphrase or your wording versus their direct quote. Copying the sentence structure, changing a few words, giving no credit. This is copy and pasting, cheating, and a way to try and make it so that it can't be found. But if you're just changing a few words, it can. And copy material that is a majority of your work, whether you give credit or not. You can't pass off vast majority of the work from other people and say it's yours. It's not the same as doing an actual work, whether you give credit or not. Okay, so types of plagiarism is stealing. This is submitting a whole work from someone else's your own, whether that be buying a term paper or turning in a brother or cousin's paper again. That is stealing. Sneaking is cutting and pasting and no sources cited. That's the one we said earlier, where we're sort of sneaking things in and hoping that it won't get caught. Okay, and then there's borrowing, which some sources are cited, but the text of the sources are not summarized or paraphrased correctly. In other words, you're trying to make it seem like it's saying something that maybe the original source did not say. And so borrowing this is, I'm again, borrowing too much material and not enough of my own input and work. Again, crediting, ethical crediting, first we're going to do is full information about the source. And in public speaking, it's different than in a paper. We'll get to that. Be sure the information is in context and relevant to your points. That is to say, I want to make sure I'm talking about a source that is relevant to my topic. Okay. Translate the source material into your own words by paraphrasing and summarizing. This is preferable to just a whole bunch of quotes. Quotes aren't bad. If you have nothing but quotes, then it doesn't sound like you're able to actually synthesize that material into the speech or paper you're creating. You're going to be using either the MLA, Modern Language Association 9th edition, or APA, American Psychological Edition. APA is mostly what is used in communications and humanities research at the college level. I will allow also MLA because I happen to know both. Okay, paper versus speech. Oral citations. Instead of saying, according to Jones, page 78, guess what? Your audience doesn't have your works cited or reference page, and you don't want them to because they would be looking at and paying attention to it instead of you. Better for listeners. According to Dr. Samuel Jones, head of cardiology at Vanderbilt University, in a 2010 article in a prestigious medical journal, then go on to what it is he quotes or says or what you summarize. Now, Dr. Samuel Jones, I'm Dr. Philip Pulley. I don't know anything about cardiology. Well, a little bit, but I'm not an expert by any means. So head of cardiology at Vanderbilt University gives context to his credibility. And you might even mention what that journal is that the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, or some other source as well. Okay. Clearly much longer, but it adds more information, again, because they don't have that works cited that they can reference. And again, we don't want them to have that. Not to say they can't have their sources after the speech, but if they have it during the speech, they'll be paying attention to that versus you. Okay. More oral citations, some examples. In her 2012 book, The Iraq War in Context, historian Mary Smith of the University of Georgia states, okay, these are much longer, but if you're worried about time limits on a 5-minute speech, which shouldn't really be an issue, one thing to remember is if I'm doing these longer citations, these take a little bit more time. Okay. In consulting the website from the American Humane Society, I found these statistics about animal abuse compiled by the society in 2012. Okay. Clear use of a clear citation makes it more noticeable and credible to the audience. By putting this information in there, you're saying, I didn't just go to the Humane Society's website. I looked at these specific statistics about abuse on their website in this time period. Okay, and allows the people to also then recognize it for what it is, as opposed to saying Jones 2000. I don't know who Jones is. Okay, context and paraphrasing. Make sure the information again is in context and relevant to your topic. You don't want to be borrowing from experts who are in the field of the subject you're talking about, but not someone from another field, and then trying to pass it off as relevant in your subject. Label facts as facts and opinions as opinions. Studies have proven would be a fact. Based on research, it is believed that would be an opinion. However, if people are doing research and that's their field of study, that is an expert opinion based on a lot more research and facts, which is different than a lay opinion, someone who just says, well, here's what I think about it, and not having anything to back up that opinion. Okay, so that's the idea of an expert opinion versus a lay opinion. So in other words, all opinions aren't necessarily equal. Again, they're an expert in the field, and their opinion is based on that research. Finishing up Chapter 3, Ethics in Public Speaking, with Section 3 on plagiarism, looking first at context and paraphrasing. So paraphrasing is important. It is summarizing the information versus giving a direct quote. It's not taking a big chunk of thing and changing 10% of the words. That's actually going to be plagiarism if you're trying to do that. You're taking it to make it your voice, but using some of their vocabulary, but you're also adjusting it for your audience. Okay, we're going to take a look at the CNN examples that are in the textbook on page 58. So their example is from 2015, and it's a long quote, but here we go. The biggest federal inmate release on record will take place this weekend. About 6,600 inmates will be released, with 16,500 expected to get out the first year. More than 40,000 federal felons could be released early over the next several years, the U.S. Sentencing Commission said. The Sentencing Commission decided a year ago to lower maximum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders and to make the change retroactive, with the inmate releases effective November 1st, 2015. Sentences were reduced an average of 18%, the Commission said. Early release would be a challenge for the inmates as well as the judicial bureaucracy. Now that's a really long quote, very complex sentence structure, the kind of things we don't want to try and say when we're reading out loud or giving a speech out loud. So to paraphrase this, the first example I gave is the CNN News website says the federal government is releasing 40,000 felons from prison in the next few years. This is not a good example of paraphrasing. Okay, why? There's no context. Why are they being released? Laws have changed, sentencing rules have changed, and we're trying to adjust for that. The article also actually says they could be released over the next several years. 40,000 could be. Could be means some of them might, on more scrutiny, not be released. Okay, why? Again, that's the needed context. Why are they being released, or why they may not be released? This version, according to the report posted on CNN's website on October 31st of 2015, the federal government's Sentencing Commission is beginning to release prisoners in November based on a decision made in 2014. That decision was to make maximum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders shorter by an average of 18%. Over the next several years, over 40,000 federal felons could be let go. However, this policy change to early release will not be easy for the justice system or those released. A good summary, full information, a lot of context. I will, however, say that even in this example they're giving from the text, you might look at ways to break these into shorter sentences that make it easier for you to deliver without having to just read. Now, I can say if you have a big, long information thing like this or a big, long quote, that is one of the few times where your audience is okay with you reading a chunk to make sure you get it right. But I would encourage you in this case to shorten these up into shorter sentences and do it that way. Okay. This is then one that's a much longer version. I'm not going to read the entire thing here. That is essentially kind of fits that 10% rule where we just change things. Okay, so it's an imitation, but the sources at the end, sources should go at the beginning. They don't have to go at the beginning, but for a long chunk of information, or if you're getting a lot of information from one source, it should come up front so they know where it's coming from. Okay, so in conclusion, essentially here, make sure you cite your sources. Oral citations are much longer, but that gives you more time and helps your audience understand the expertise and the significance of the source. It gives source credibility, it gives that context, and again, beginning is best, but end is okay, I guess, unless, again, like in those examples we just saw, it's a big chunk of information, then definitely do it first. Okay. Paraphrase is better, of course, because you're doing wording that matches your audience's level, especially if it's very technical information. You might want to take it down a level that the average person can understand. And quotes, they can be good, but we want to use them sparingly to show that we can integrate this material information and paraphrase it in our words better shows we understand it. That's the end of Chapter 3, Ethics in Public Education. Thanks.